"You're everything to me, Casey," Frankie had said while holding me close. But tonight, looking at the notification on his phone, I realized it was all a lie. I was at his apartment, our usual Friday evening routine. He'd gone to take a shower, leaving his phone buzzing on the dining table. Normally I wouldn't look. Privacy mattered. But the screen lit up with a group chat preview that made my blood run cold. "Marcus, bro, Sophia's coming back next month. What's your game plan now?" "Frankie, easy. Casey's useful for family stuff right now. When Sophia gets settled, I'll figure it out. He's a safe backup lol." Backup. That single word pierced through my chest like a blade made of ice. My hand moved automatically toward the phone. I shouldn't have. I knew I shouldn't have. But I couldn't stop myself. I scrolled up. More messages. An entire week's worth of conversations. Frankie telling his friends I was a temporary arrangement. That Sophia was his real connection. That I was just a convenient placeholder until his ex-girlfriend returned from Europe. 2 years. I had given this man 2 entire years of my life. The shower stopped. Water dripping. Frankie emerged moments later with a towel wrapped around his waist, humming some pop song I didn't recognize. When he saw my face, saw his phone in my trembling hand, his carefree smile evaporated instantly. "Casey, baby. Listen. That's not backup?" My voice came out surprisingly steady despite the hurricane raging inside my chest. On the surface I was frozen solid. "I'm your backup plan?" His hands shot up in a defensive gesture, palms facing me. "Come on, man. You're taking this out of context. That was just locker room talk. Guys exaggerate when they're chatting with friends." "Exaggerate?" I turned the phone screen toward him, highlighting the damning words. "It says right here that Sophia is your real connection and I'm just convenient. Where exactly is the exaggeration in that statement?" His jaw clenched tight. Instead of guilt washing over his features, irritation crept into his eyes. "Look, Casey. You're overthinking this entire situation. Sophia is ancient history. Sure, she's coming back to the States. But that doesn't mean, then delete her." "What? If she's ancient history like you claim? Delete her contact information. Unfollow her on every social media platform. It's simple enough." Frankie laughed. That condescending sound that made me feel small and stupid. "Casey, seriously, grow up already. She's a family friend. There are business connections involved. I can't compromise my professional networking just because you're feeling insecure." Insecure. That word raced through my nervous system like battery acid dissolving everything in its path. "This isn't insecurity," I said quietly, setting his phone down on the counter with deliberate care. "This is called having self-respect." I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. My keys were in the bowl by the door. Wallet from the side table. Phone charger still plugged into the wall outlet. I yanked it free and stuffed it in my pocket. "Where do you think you're going?" Panic finally entered Frankie's voice. "Casey, you're seriously leaving over something this small?" "Something small?" For the first time I raised my voice, not shouting, but firm and unwavering. "Frankie, you spent 2 years with me. 2 entire years. And the whole time I was just a placeholder for you. A safe option to keep your bed warm until your perfect match decided to grace you with her presence again." "I never said that." "You said exactly that." The words exploded from my throat. Silence crashed down between us like a guillotine blade. Frankie didn't even try to defend himself anymore. He just stood there with his arms crossed over his bare chest, clearly waiting for my dramatic tantrum to run its course so we could go back to pretending everything was fine. And in that crystallizing moment, reality struck me with brutal clarity. This wasn't the first time. This was simply the first time I'd found concrete evidence. "We're done," I said, walking toward the door with my bag slung over my shoulder. "Fine. Go ahead and leave. When you're finished overreacting, you can come crawling back." Frankie shouted at my retreating back as I was already halfway out the door. I didn't stop walking. Outside, the cold November air slapped my face hard, but I barely registered the sensation. There was only numbness spreading through my limbs like novocaine. Where was I supposed to go now? I had no plan, no backup. The irony wasn't lost on me. The next morning, I dragged myself to the office operating in full zombie mode. Sleep had been impossible. I'd spent the entire night staring at the water-stained ceiling of a budget hotel room, replaying every conversation, every moment, searching for signs I'd missed. Frankie had called 15 times. I hadn't answered once. At the office, everyone went about their business as usual. Nobody knew. Why would they? Frankie had even posted to his Instagram story late last night an old photo of us with the caption missing my one. Fake. Everything was fake. During lunch break, I escaped to the rooftop terrace, desperately needing to be alone with my spiraling thoughts. But apparently, the universe had other plans. Marcel Haze was already there. He stood near the railing with a coffee cup in hand, his gray eyes surveying the city spread out below. Frankie's older brother, the company's CEO. We'd barely interacted beyond formal meetings and polite nods in hallways. He had a reputation for being intense, quiet, and, if I was being completely honest, intimidating as hell. I tried to turn around quietly, hoping to slip away unnoticed, but, Casey, I froze mid-step. How did he even know my name? Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I stammered awkwardly, already backing toward the door. Marcel turned to face me fully. Those gray eyes, sharp and calculating, yet surprisingly warm, studied my face with uncomfortable intensity. You're not disturbing anything, he said simply. Then, without preamble, you and Frankie broke up? My heart stuttered in my chest. How did you know about that? Nothing stays secret in an office environment for very long. Marcel took a measured sip of his coffee. Besides, Frankie is my brother. I'm familiar with his patterns. He'd used the plural form. Oh, was all I could manage. Marcel remained silent for several seconds, clearly weighing his next words carefully. When he finally spoke, his tone stayed neutral, but the words themselves cut straight to the bone. You deserve better than what he gave you. Shock rippled through me. Why would you say something like that to me? Because it's the truth. Marcel set his coffee cup down on the railing with a soft clink. Frankie has always been irresponsible in relationships. It's a consistent pattern. He takes people for granted when they're available, then panics and falls apart when they finally leave him. Hearing this from my ex-boyfriend's own brother felt surreal and validating in equal measure. So why are you telling me this? I asked carefully, genuinely confused about his motivations. Marcel looked at me properly for the first time, really looked at me, and something in his gaze felt almost protective. Because if Frankie tries to manipulate you into going back, I want you to be prepared. And also because, he hesitated, which seemed completely out of character. Because I know exactly what it feels like when someone doesn't recognize your value. Personal. This had just become deeply personal. It happened to you too? I asked softly. Marcel gave a slight nod. A long time ago, yes. Comfortable silence stretched between us. Surprisingly so, given we were practically strangers. Then Marcel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a plain white card with a handwritten address. This is my penthouse address, he said, placing the card directly into my palm. If you need a place to stay, a safe space away from drama, consider this an option. I don't understand. There are no strings attached to this offer, Marcel clarified in a professional tone. I have a guest room. You can stay as long as you need to. This is simply a practical solution to your current circumstances. This was insane. The CEO was offering me a room in his home? But you don't even really know me. I know that you're skilled at your job. And I know that Frankie treated you poorly. Marcel's expression remained firm and certain. That's sufficient information. He didn't wait for my response. He simply walked away, leaving me standing alone on that rooftop holding a card that felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. I spent the entire day staring at that card. It lived in my pocket during meetings, sat on my desk during work, accompanied me to the bathroom. Marcel's offer played on repeat in my mind like a scratched record. By evening, I'd reached a decision. The hotel room was bleeding my savings dry and wasn't sustainable long-term. Friends? Every single one had come into my life through Frankie. Asking them for help would be awkward at best, impossible at worst. My family lived 3 states away, and I wasn't ready to involve them in this mess yet. Marcel's offer was unconventional, risky even. but something about it felt genuine in a way nothing else had in years. I pulled out my phone and typed, "Is the offer still available?" The response came almost immediately, "Yes. Address is on the card. Give your name to building security and they'll direct you." Simple. No interrogation. No judgment. The building was a high-rise masterpiece of glass and polished marble that screamed expensive in every architectural detail. Security confirmed my name on some list and directed me to a private elevator that went straight to the penthouse level. The door opened before I could even knock. Marcel stood in the doorway, no corporate suit this time. Just a simple black Henley shirt, well-worn jeans, and bare feet. He looked human, approachable. "Casey," he greeted, stepping aside to let me enter. "Come inside." I walked in clutching my duffel bag like a security blanket. The interior design was minimalist perfection. Sleek, modern furniture in muted earth tones. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the glittering city below. Everything felt peaceful. Calm. "The guest room is down that corridor," Marcel indicated with a gesture toward the left hallway. "It has an attached bathroom. Fresh towels are in the closet. Feel free to use anything in the kitchen whenever you're hungry. And," he paused, making direct eye contact, "there are no rules here. This is your space for as long as you require it." "What about rent?" I asked hesitantly, already knowing I couldn't afford much. "No. But I should contribute something." "No," Marcel repeated more firmly. "This isn't charity, Casey. This is empathy." A lump formed in my throat. When was the last time someone had offered me something without expecting payment or favors in return? "Thank you," I whispered, meaning it with every fiber of my being. "Seriously," Marcel gave a subtle nod of acknowledgement. "Get some rest. Tomorrow is a fresh start." He walked toward his own room, leaving me standing in this strange new environment that somehow already felt safer than anywhere I'd been in months. For the first time in days, breathing didn't require conscious effort. The next morning I woke up disoriented and anxious. New surroundings, potential awkwardness ahead. But when I ventured into the kitchen, Marcel was already there making coffee with his laptop open on the counter. "Morning," he said without turning around. "Good morning," I replied. "Want some coffee?" "Yes, please." He poured an extra cup and slid it across the counter toward me. We both stood there in silence. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt strangely natural. "Heading to the office today?" Marcel asked casually. "Yeah. I'll give you a ride." Even this simple offer felt significant. Different. Frankie had never offered rides. I'd always rearranged my schedule to accommodate his. This small gesture of consideration meant more than Marcel probably realized. "That would be great," I said. "Thank you." The drive featured soft jazz playing through expensive speakers. Marcel's driving style was smooth and unhurried. No aggressive lane changes or frustrated honking. "If Frankie approaches you at the office," Marcel said suddenly, eyes remaining focused on the road ahead, "inform human resources immediately. Don't try to handle the situation by yourself. He wouldn't actually. He'll become desperate once he realizes you've genuinely left." Marcel interrupted, his voice firm but not harsh. "Trust me on this. I've known him his entire life." And Marcel was absolutely right. The morning passed normally enough at work. But during lunch, as I exited the cafeteria, Frankie was waiting in the hallway. "Casey." Finally. He grabbed my arm. "You've been ignoring me for 2 days straight. We need to talk." "Let go, Frankie," I said calmly, pulling my arm free from his grip. "No. You're completely overreacting about everything. We can fix this situation." "There's nothing to fix." My voice remained steady. "We're finished." Frankie's face flushed red, frustration and embarrassment competing for dominance. "This is Marcel's influence, isn't it? My own brother has been poisoning your mind against me." "Nobody poisoned anything. You revealed your truth all by yourself." "Casey, I love you." "No. You love Sophia. I was just the convenient option keeping your bed warm." Frankie's expression cracked. Guilt flickered across his features for a microsecond. But then his defensive walls slammed back into place. "Fine. Walk away then. But remember this, when Marcel gets bored of his little charity project, where will you run next?" The words were designed to wound. Calculated and cruel. But before I could formulate a response, "He's not going anywhere." Marcel's voice cut through the tension like a sharpened blade. He stood in the corridor with his hands casually tucked into his pockets, his expression completely neutral yet somehow radiating authority that commanded immediate attention. Frankie stepped back instinctively. "Look, I was just trying to—" "Trying to what, exactly?" Marcel moved closer with measured steps. "Emotionally manipulate Casey on company property? During work hours? This is a personal matter between us." "No. This constitutes workplace harassment." Marcel's tone dropped to Arctic temperatures. "If you approach Casey again without explicit consent, Human Resources will file a formal complaint. Am I being perfectly clear?" Frankie looked genuinely shocked, hurt even. But he couldn't formulate any coherent defense. He just glared at both of us before turning on his heel and storming away. Marcel turned his attention to me. "Are you all right?" I nodded, though my throat felt tight. "Yeah. Thank you for intervening." "You don't need to thank me," Marcel said softly. "Protecting you is my responsibility while you're under my roof." Responsibility. But the genuine concern visible in his gray eyes suggested his feelings extended far beyond mere obligation. A week slipped by and somehow a comfortable routine established itself. Morning coffee with Marcel became a ritual I looked forward to. Work consumed my days. Evenings meant returning to the penthouse. Dinner happened either at nearby restaurants or in Marcel's impressive kitchen. Our conversations flowed easily, discussing work challenges, debating book recommendations, sharing random observations about life. Frankie's text messages continued arriving initially, then gradually decreased in frequency before stopping altogether. His Instagram began featuring photos with Sophia, complete with "reunited at last" captions that made my stomach twist. Did it hurt? Absolutely. But the overwhelming relief surprised me more than the pain. One Thursday evening, I found myself on the terrace. City lights sparkled below like scattered diamonds against black velvet. I stood near the railing, lost in thought, when Marcel appeared carrying 2 wine glasses filled with deep red liquid. "This one's for you," he offered, extending a glass in my direction. "Thanks." I accepted it and took a sip. Smooth. Clearly expensive. We stood together in companionable silence, watching the urban landscape breathe and pulse with life. "Are you finding it easy to adjust here?" Marcel asked eventually. "Yes," I answered honestly. "Surprisingly so. Living with you feels effortless, natural." Marcel's lips curved into a rare smile. "I feel the same way about having you here." The moment stretched between us, heavy with unspoken possibilities. "Marcel," I began hesitantly, "you mentioned once that someone in your past took you for granted. Would you be willing to tell me about it?" Marcel fell silent. I worried I'd overstepped some invisible boundary. "But then, his name was Ryan," he said quietly. "We met during college. I took the relationship very seriously, started planning our future together. He was different, free-spirited, afraid of commitment, though I didn't fully understand that at the time." He took a measured sip of wine, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "For 3 years I rearranged my entire existence around him. Career choices, city preferences, everything revolved around making him happy. Then one morning, he was simply gone. He left a note on the kitchen counter. 'You deserve someone capable of loving you the way you love them.'" My chest constricted painfully. The story hit too close to home. "What happened after he left?" I asked gently. "I disappeared into myself for a while. Buried everything under mountains of work. Built my way up to CEO. Achieved conventional success. But my personal life?" Marcel finally looked at me directly. "It became non-existent. Until I saw you with Frankie at that company function last year. Watching you with him, it was like looking into a mirror reflecting my own past." "So you helped me because you saw yourself?" "Yes. And also," Marcel hesitated, which seemed completely unlike him, "because there was something genuine about you. Something real that I didn't want Frankie to destroy the way Ryan destroyed parts of me." Silence wrapped around us like a warm blanket. "You saved me, Marcel," I finally said. "No. You saved yourself. I merely provided a safe landing place. But I desperately needed that safe place. and you offered it without expecting anything in return. Marcel's gaze intensified, his gray eyes searching mine. Casey, I'm not expecting anything from you. I know, I interrupted, and that's precisely why you're so fundamentally different from anyone I've ever known. The space between us had narrowed somehow. When had we moved closer? I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment. But now we stood mere inches apart. Different how? Marcel whispered. Safe? Honest. With you, I can finally just be myself without pretending or performing. Marcel's eyes dropped to my lips for a fraction of a second before returning to meet my gaze directly. Casey, he said carefully, if this is a rebound situation, I need to know now. It's not a rebound, I stated firmly. This is the first time in my entire life I felt like someone actually sees me. The real me. Tension crackled in the air between us, electric and alive. But Marcel took a deliberate step backward. You need more time, he said, his voice strained with obvious restraint. Your breakup is still fresh. I refuse to let you make decisions you might regret later. Disappointment flooded through me, but beneath it I felt profound respect for his restraint. All right, I agreed softly. But Marcel? Yes? When I am ready, will your offer still stand? Marcel's entire expression softened. Always. The following Monday brought an unexpected announcement at the office. My promotion. From senior analyst directly to project manager. Shock barely described my reaction. Excitement mixed with disbelief. But mostly I became aware of whispered conversations happening in corners and break rooms. Obviously favoritism. The CEO's influence is painfully obvious. He's Frankie's ex-boyfriend, right? Suspicious timing if you ask me. During lunch, Marcel summoned me to his office. How are you handling everything? He asked without preamble. I'm fine, I lied automatically. Casey. He pinned me with that penetrating gray stare. I hear the office gossip circulating. People will talk regardless. It's manageable. No, it's absolutely not acceptable. Marcel stood, radiating controlled intensity. Your promotion was based entirely on merit. Last quarter, your performance exceeded every measurable metric. Your reports were flawless. Deadlines were consistently met. This advancement reflects your work, not my influence. But people won't believe. Then provide them with undeniable proof. Marcel pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the desk between us. Your performance reviews. 6 months of documented excellence. See for yourself. I opened the folder with trembling fingers. Everything was official: charts, statistics, supervisor feedback. All positive. All thoroughly documented. This is all legitimate? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. Completely. I don't promote people who haven't earned it. You earned every bit of this advancement. For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed in my own capabilities. Thank you, I managed to say past the emotion clogging my throat. Marcel smiled, genuine warmth transforming his usually serious features. Congratulations, manager. Over the following weeks, I settled into my new role. Team meetings, client presentations, strategic planning sessions. The work was demanding but deeply satisfying. At home, and I'd started thinking of Marcel's penthouse as home. Our routine continued evolving. Weekend movie marathons. Experimental cooking adventures. Conversations that ranged from profound to ridiculous and back again. One Friday night, we attempted making Italian cuisine from a YouTube tutorial. The result was spectacular failure. Pasta coating the counters, sauce splattered across the backsplash, flour dusting every available surface. That video made this look incredibly simple. I laughed, surveying the disaster zone. Marcel was laughing too. A genuine, unguarded sound that transformed his entire face. Perhaps we should consider professional cooking classes. Or hire a personal chef, I suggested, attempting to wipe sauce from my hands with a thoroughly inadequate paper towel. Marcel handed me a proper kitchen towel. Our fingers brushed brief contact that sent electricity racing up my arm. Time seemed to freeze. Casey, Marcel said softly. Yeah? You understand that He paused, clearly wrestling with something. That my feelings for you have evolved beyond friendship. My breath caught in my throat. Marcel, I've tried ignoring it, he continued. vulnerability written across every feature. Tried giving you space and time, but the more I know you, the harder it becomes to pretend I don't feel this way. Silence stretched between us, charged with possibility. Then I took one decisive step forward, closing the distance. Then stop pretending. Marcel's eyes widened. Casey, you need to be absolutely certain. I won't let you. I'm certain, I interrupted firmly. What I had with Frankie was built on lies and convenience. This is real. And I feel exactly the same way. Marcel's expression transformed, relief and hope and lingering fear mixing together. You're completely sure? He whispered. Absolutely. Slowly, carefully, Marcel raised his hand to cup my cheek. His palm was warm, steady, gentle. I don't want to hurt you, he said quietly. You won't, I assured him. You're different, Marcel. Different from everyone. We leaned toward each other simultaneously, eliminating the final inches separating us. The kiss was soft, tentative, but it contained everything: trust, respect, promise, hope. When we finally pulled apart, we were both smiling. That was real, right? I asked breathlessly. Marcel laughed. Very real. 3 weeks after our first kiss, life had transformed into something I'd never experienced before. Actual happiness without underlying anxiety. Work became my sanctuary. The promotion wasn't just a title change. It represented validation I desperately needed. My team responded well to my leadership style and projects were exceeding expectations consistently. But the whispers hadn't entirely disappeared. Tuesday afternoon, I overheard 2 colleagues in the break room. They didn't notice me approaching from the hallway. Must be nice having the CEO as your boyfriend, Jennifer from accounting muttered while refilling her coffee mug. Right? Fast track to success, David agreed, laughing cynically. My stomach dropped. I'd worked incredibly hard for this position, but apparently, some people would always reduce my achievements to favoritism. I walked past them without acknowledging their conversation, heading straight back to my desk. Focus on the numbers. Focus on the quarterly report. Don't let them get inside your head. An hour later, my desk phone rang. Marcel's extension. Can you come to my office? His voice remained professionally neutral. We maintained strict boundaries during work hours. I grabbed my tablet and took the elevator up. His assistant waved me through immediately. Marcel sat behind his massive desk, reviewing something on his computer screen. When I entered, he looked up with an expression I couldn't quite read. Close the door, please. My pulse quickened. Is something wrong? Sit down, Casey. He gestured to the chair across from him. I sat, gripping my tablet like a shield. Marcel leaned back in his chair, studying me carefully. I received an email this morning. Anonymous, claiming our relationship creates conflicts of interest and demanding an investigation into your promotion. The room tilted slightly. What? It's baseless, Marcel said firmly. Your promotion occurred before we became involved personally. The timeline is documented. Your performance reviews speak for themselves. But what? But I need to know if this is affecting you. If the office environment has become hostile. I thought about Jennifer and David in the break room, about the sideways glances in meetings, the sudden silences when I entered communal spaces. People talk, I admitted quietly. They assume things. But I can handle it. You shouldn't have to handle it alone. Marcel's gray eyes softened with concern. I'm scheduling a department meeting tomorrow. I'll address the promotion process directly, explain the metrics, the evaluation criteria, that you earned this position and everyone needs to understand that clearly. Won't that just draw more attention to us? I won't mention our personal relationship. This is purely about your professional qualifications. Marcel paused, then added, unless you want me to take a different approach? I considered this carefully. Part of me wanted to hide, to avoid scrutiny. But another part, the stronger part that had walked away from Frankie, refused to shrink anymore. Do what you think is right, I said. I trust your judgment. Something shifted in Marcel's expression. Pride maybe. Or admiration. Thank you for trusting me with this. The department meeting happened Wednesday morning in the main conference room. 50 employees packed in, curious and suspicious in equal measure. Marcel stood at the front, projecting an air of absolute authority. He spent 30 minutes breaking down the promotion process, evaluation criteria, performance benchmarks, comparison data across all departments. Then he pulled up my specific metrics on the screen. Casey's quarterly performance consistently exceeded departmental averages by 18%. His project completion rate was 97%. Client satisfaction scores were the highest in his division. These numbers existed months before any personnel decisions were made. He clicked through slides showing graphs, timelines, and documented feedback from supervisors who'd worked with me long before Marcel and I had even spoken on that rooftop. Promotions in this company are merit-based. Always have been. Always will be. If anyone has concerns about this process, Human Resources maintains an open-door policy. Marcel's gaze swept across the room. But spreading unsubstantiated rumors damages our workplace culture and will not be tolerated. The room fell silent. After the meeting dispersed, several colleagues approached me, some offering congratulations that seemed genuine, others still skeptical but less openly hostile. Jennifer from accounting stopped by my desk later that afternoon. "Hey." She looked uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology. I made assumptions without knowing the full story." "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't entirely. "No, it's not okay. You worked for this. I should have recognized that." She gave an awkward smile. "Your Q3 projections were brilliant, by the way. I've been using your methodology as a reference." Something loosened in my chest. "Really? Really? So, yeah. Sorry for being part of the problem." After she left, I sat there processing the unexpected vindication. Marcel hadn't just defended me, he'd armed me with undeniable proof of my own competence. That evening, I returned to the penthouse feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Marcel was already home, tie loosened, shoes kicked off, looking more relaxed than his usual corporate persona. "How did the afternoon go?" he asked, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "Better, actually." Jennifer apologized. A few others seemed to reconsider their assumptions. I accepted the glass he offered. "Thank you for doing that. You didn't have to be so thorough." "Yes, I did." Marcel's expression was serious. "Your reputation matters. Your career matters. I won't let anyone diminish what you've accomplished." We moved to the couch, sitting close enough that our shoulders touched. "Can I ask you something?" I said after a moment. "Always. Why do you care so much? About protecting me, defending me, all of it?" Marcel set his wine glass down carefully. "Because when Ryan left, nobody defended me. Nobody stood up and said what happened wasn't my fault. I internalized all that pain, convinced myself I wasn't enough." He turned to face me directly. "I see that same doubt in you sometimes. That fear that you're not worthy. And I refuse to let you believe that lie." My throat tightened with emotion. "I don't know what I did to deserve you. You were brave enough to leave a situation that was destroying you. You chose yourself." Marcel reached over, threading his fingers through mine. "That's what you did to deserve happiness." We sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined until Marcel spoke again. "Move into my room this weekend. Not the guest room anymore. Really move in. Are you certain?" "I've never been more certain about anything." His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. "I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want this to be our home, not just my space that you're occupying temporarily." Joy bloomed warm in my chest. "Then yes. Absolutely yes." Marcel pulled me closer, kissing me with a tenderness that made everything else fade into insignificance. The office politics, the doubters, the painful past, none of it mattered in this moment. What mattered was that I'd found someone who saw me completely and chose me anyway. What mattered was that I'd finally learned to choose myself too. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. Perfect weather for the farmers market downtown. Marcel had suggested we go together, make a day of it, maybe find fresh ingredients for dinner. We were laughing about his terrible attempt at selecting ripe avocados when I heard a familiar voice behind us. "Casey?" I froze. That voice still triggered an immediate stress response despite weeks of distance. Turning slowly, I found Frankie standing 3 feet away with a shopping bag in one hand. Alone this time, no Sophia in sight. "Hey," I said carefully, positioning myself slightly closer to Marcel. "Can we talk?" Frankie's eyes darted between Marcel and me. "Just for a minute?" Marcel's posture shifted subtly. Protective without being aggressive. Does he want to talk to you? It's fine, I said quietly, though my heart hammered against my ribs. 1 minute. We stepped aside to a less crowded area near the flower stalls, while Marcel waited at a respectful distance, though I could feel his attention focused entirely on us. You look good, Frankie started awkwardly. Happy. I am happy. What do you want, Frankie? He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. I've been thinking a lot. About us. About how things ended. Things didn't just end. You treated me like a placeholder for 2 years. I know. His voice cracked slightly. And I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I do that, why I sabotage good things, because I'm chasing some idealized version of what I think I want. This was unexpected. Frankie in therapy? Actually taking accountability? That's good that you're getting help, I said cautiously. Sophia and I didn't work out. He laughed bitterly. Turns out the fantasy I'd built up didn't match reality. She's engaged to someone else now. Met him 2 weeks after arriving back in the country. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part just felt tired. I'm sorry that happened to you. But I'm not your backup plan anymore, Frankie. I was never supposed to be anyone's backup plan. I know that now. Frankie's eyes were genuinely remorseful. I'm not here to ask for another chance. I needed you to know that I understand what I lost. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. Yes. I did, and Marcel. Frankie glanced over at his brother, who was examining tomatoes but clearly monitoring our conversation. He's a good person, better than me in a lot of ways. If you're happy with him, then I'm genuinely glad. You're okay with this? Really? I'm working on being okay with it. It's complicated. He's my brother, you were my boyfriend. But mostly I'm just trying to accept the consequences of my own choices. Frankie managed a sad smile. Take care of yourself, Casey. You always deserved someone who saw your value from the beginning. He walked away before I could formulate a response, disappearing into the crowd of weekend shoppers. Marcel appeared at my elbow immediately. Are you all right? Yeah. Actually, I think I am. I watched Frankie's retreating figure. He apologized, took responsibility, said he's in therapy. How do you feel about that? I considered the question carefully. Glad he's getting help. But it doesn't change what happened, it doesn't erase the damage or make everything okay again. No, it doesn't. Marcel's hand found mine, squeezing gently. You don't owe him forgiveness just because he's finally recognizing his mistakes. I know. And honestly, I don't forgive him yet. Maybe someday, but not today. I turned to face Marcel fully. Today, I just want to buy overpriced vegetables with you and go home. Marcel's face broke into that rare, full smile I'd become addicted to seeing. That sounds perfect. We spent the afternoon cooking together, actually successfully this time. Grilled vegetables, homemade pasta, a dessert that only slightly collapsed in the middle, but tasted incredible anyway. After dinner, we ended up on the terrace with our usual wine glasses, watching the sunset over the city skyline. Can I tell you something? Marcel said softly. Of course. When I first saw you with Frankie at that company event last year, I was jealous. He stared into his wine glass. Not because I wanted you specifically. I didn't know you then, but because you looked at him the way I'd looked at Ryan. Like he was your entire world, and I remembered how much it hurt when my entire world walked away. That must have been painful to witness. It was. But then I started noticing other things. How Frankie would leave you alone at social functions while he networked. How your smile never quite reached your eyes. How you'd apologize for taking up space. Marcel turned to look at me, and I realized you were living the same pattern I'd lived, making yourself smaller to fit someone else's life. Why didn't you say something back then? Because people can't hear that message until they're ready. You had to discover the truth yourself. He set down his glass. But when you showed up on that rooftop looking devastated, I knew your moment had come, and I couldn't not offer help. You saved me that day. We saved each other. Marcel's hand cupped my face gently. You reminded me that opening your heart again after it's been broken is possible. That taking a risk on connection doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're brave. Tears pricked my eyes. I love you. Not because you rescued me from a bad situation, but because you saw me when I was invisible. Because you made space for me to become myself again. I love you too. Marcel's voice was thick with emotion. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone after Ryan. We kissed as the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was gentle and deep simultaneously, a kiss that spoke of commitment, of choosing each other deliberately, of building something real together. When we finally pulled apart, Marcel rested his forehead against mine. Move your things tomorrow? He asked. Tomorrow, I confirmed. The guest room would become my home office. Marcel's room, our room, would become where we built our life together. The chapter with Frankie was finally, completely closed. A new chapter was beginning, and this one I was writing on my own terms. 6 months later, life had settled into a rhythm I'd never imagined possible. Work continued exceeding expectations. My team had successfully launched 3 major projects, each receiving recognition from upper management. The office whispers had faded into background noise. Most colleagues now respected my contributions regardless of my relationship with Marcel. We maintained professional boundaries at work. No public displays of affection. No special treatment, no meeting behind closed doors without legitimate business reasons. If anything, Marcel held me to higher standards than other managers, ensuring nobody could claim favoritism. But after work hours, that's when our real life happened. Sunday morning I woke to sunlight streaming through the bedroom curtains, and Marcel's arm draped across my waist. He was still asleep, face relaxed and peaceful in a way he never looked during work hours. I studied his features, the strong jawline, the slight crease between his eyebrows even in sleep, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. 6 months ago I couldn't have imagined this level of contentment existing. Marcel's eyes fluttered open, catching me watching him. Morning, creeper, he mumbled, voice rough with sleep. Morning yourself. I kissed his shoulder. Coffee? 5 more minutes, like this first. We stayed tangled together, comfortable in the silence until my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it reluctantly. A text from my mother. Dad and I are visiting the city next weekend. Can we finally meet this mystery boyfriend you keep mentioning? My stomach flipped. Marcel and I had been together for months, but introducing him to my parents felt like crossing into serious territory. Everything okay? Marcel asked, noticing my expression. My parents want to meet you next weekend. He propped himself up on one elbow. And that worries you because meeting parents is significant. Because what if they don't approve? Because, Casey. Marcel silenced my spiraling anxiety with a gentle kiss. I'd like to meet them, if you're ready for that step. You're not nervous? Terrified, actually. He grinned. But good terrified. The kind that means something matters. The following Saturday, we picked my parents up from their hotel. My mother hugged me tightly while my father shook Marcel's hand with that assessing look. Father's perfect over decades. We'd chosen a quiet restaurant for dinner. Elegant but not pretentious, with enough privacy for genuine conversation. So Marcel, my mother began once we'd ordered, Casey tells us you're the CEO of his company. That must be quite demanding. It can be, yes. But I've learned to prioritize what truly matters. Marcel glanced at me. Work is important, but it's not everything. My father leaned forward slightly. How did you two meet? I tensed, unsure how much to share about the Frankie situation. Marcel must have sensed my discomfort because he smoothly took over. We work in the same building, started talking during lunch breaks, discovered we had similar interests, and things developed naturally from there. Not entirely truthful, but not a lie either. Just careful editing. And you treat our son well? My mother's tone was pleasant, but her eyes were sharp. I try to every single day, Marcel answered seriously. Casey deserves someone who sees his value, who supports his ambitions, who makes space for him to be completely himself. That's what I aim to provide. My mother's expression softened considerably. The evening progressed smoothly after that. My parents asked thoughtful questions. Marcel answered with genuine interest. By dessert, my father was laughing at Marcel's stories about disastrous board meetings, and my mother was showing him embarrassing childhood photos on her phone. We should get going, my father said eventually, checking his watch. Early flight tomorrow. Outside the restaurant, my mother pulled me into another hug. I like him, she whispered. He looks at you the way your father looks at me, like you're the most important person in the room. I'm happy, Mom. Really happy. That's all we've ever wanted for you. She kissed my cheek. Hold on to this one. After we'd dropped them at their hotel and were driving back to the penthouse, Marcel reached over and took my hand. That went well, he said. Better than well. They loved you. Your mother is formidable. I can see where you get your strength. You were perfect with them. Thank you for being so patient with all the questions. Marcel pulled into our building's parking garage and turned off the engine but didn't move to get out immediately. Casey, there's something I've been wanting to discuss. My heart rate picked up. Okay. I know we've only been together officially for 6 months. I know that's not very long in the grand scheme of relationships. He turned to face me fully. But I need you to understand something. This isn't temporary for me. This isn't a phase or a rebound or anything uncertain. Marcel, let me finish, please. He took both my hands in his. You are the person I want to build a life with. I want Sunday mornings and terrible cooking experiments, and meeting each other's families. I want to support your career growth and celebrate your victories and help you through difficult days. I want all of it, with you for as long as you'll have me. Tears blurred my vision. That sounds exactly like what I want too. Then let's make this official in every way that matters. Let's be partners, real partners. Not just boyfriend and boyfriend, but people who are committed to building something lasting together. Are you proposing? I asked, half laughing, half crying. Not yet. When I propose, there will be a ring and a much better planned speech. Marcel smiled. This is me saying I'm all in. Completely. And asking if you are too. I'm all in, I said without hesitation. I'm absolutely, completely, totally all in. We kissed in the parking garage like teenagers, laughing between kisses, foreheads pressed together, hands tangled in each other's hair. When we finally made it upstairs, we stood on the terrace, our spot watching the city lights shimmer below. A year ago, I said softly, I was trapped in a relationship where I was invisible, where I made myself small to fit someone else's life. And now I'm standing here with someone who sees all of me, the messy parts, the ambitious parts, the scared parts, and chooses me anyway. I turned to face Marcel. Now I'm home. Marcel pulled me close, and we stood there holding each other as the city hummed with life around us. I'd stopped being someone's backup plan. I'd become someone's first choice, and more importantly, I'd learned to choose myself. That made all the difference.